not sure how many of you knew this, right? But for the last 75 years, blessing airplanes has been an annual tradition at Dublin Airport. This is not something that I knew. So the DAA has recently decided to review this ritual because of new security protocols. So joining me to discuss it is travel journalist Eoghan Corry. Welcome to the show, Eoghan.
Good afternoon, Stephanie, and blessings to yourself as well.
And many blessings to you, sir. Talk to me about this tradition. It seems a little bit bananas.
It's not at all. Blessing cars, blessing cows, blessing farm machinery, that was pretty much the norm. It's pretty much the norm in our grandparents' time throughout the country, Stephanie.
But did you need a priest to do it? Because like my grandmother would have blessed my cars. She would have like sprinkled a bit of holy water on it. But this is the actual Dublin Airport priest, also didn't know he existed, who would be the sole person who would go out and bless all the aircraft.
Wasn't that he was the sole person, but the chaplain. There was always a chaplain in Dublin Airport. Important to have a chaplain for other reasons, by the way. A lot of, coffins coming in, people in distress coming in. The chaplain would be on duty, and it's the chaplain from the nearby parish, Father Des Doyle, that performs that duty. It's an interesting, really, really interesting custom because it isn't. It hasn't survived in many other airports in the world, and it's really difficult to find a time to do it. It started in 1947, and 1947 was a very, very different time. You only had just over 100,000 people going through the airport. Dublin Airport's passenger numbers would be a fraction of what Kerry Airport would do nowadays. And Aer Lingus had bought 7 new aircraft. So in 1947, they got the 7 together. They blessed the aircraft. And in Ireland of the time, I don't think anyone would have objected to their aircraft being blessed because air travel was pretty new. People were a bit stressed by it. How can this heap of metal get up in the sky and get down safely again? So having it blessed was probably a huge advantage. I'm not sure if they used it to marketing. They also bought in new Lockheed Constellations that year. And then from, it continued up till about the 1960s, 1967, they realised getting all the aircraft together in one place was disrupting operations. Dublin Airport was a lot busier.
But it was still just an annual thing, like they only needed to be blessed.
always an annual thing.
Okay.
And there's one day Dublin Airport doesn't operate, it's Christmas Day. So that's one of the reasons it survived is the chaplain comes out Christmas Day, goes around and blesses the aircraft there. It used to be always the Aer Lingus aircraft. As listeners will probably know, Aer Lingus aircraft are named after saints.
Yes, yeah.
And then in recent years, Ryanair's have also been based at the aircraft. We have about 24 Ryanair aircraft based at the airport and about 50 Aer Lingus. So whatever was there got blessed on the day. It was more or less it was a bowing to a previous generation's tradition, and now it's become a little bit controversial in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, in the last 24 hours only, because my understanding is that a non-Catholic, a humanist minister maybe, or asked if they could also bless the aircraft, and Dublin Airport were like, no, this has gone too far now. There's no more blessing of aircraft for any religion.
We live in the age of outrage, Stephanie, a social media outrage. And that's how the story emerged. Somebody put it up on social media that there was an objection. You can imagine all what happened on Twitter and other social media outlets as soon as that report is not entirely.
So were they outraged that this was happening, or was it more like kind of Christian people being outraged that it was stopping?
Interesting how this, it would serve a good thesis for a student of social media. It was produced by a Christian people saying somebody's objected to it. And then, of course, the outrage went in the other direction. Why is this happening in the first place? And a lot of anti-church stuff rose up. But it all got stoked fairly. It all, like many social media storms, it went from a very gentle wind to a hurricane very quickly. The Dublin Airport have issued a statement today saying that they're reviewing the process because it's got so complicated getting people airside. in Dublin Airport. And that is an absolute, that is a bit of a headache for Dublin Airport. It's, security is now more important than it would have been in 1947. And that impacts everything. It impacts cleaning staff. It impacts anyone going airside for anything. The days when you could shuttle a priest and a few altar boys into the airstrip without anybody asking a question are long gone. And that's what they're reviewing. I'm not sure. I think they'll be watching what's happened in social media and seeing what's
we do
the
have
best solution for this problem.
DA have issued a statement to say that they're working on a new approach to facilitate the traditional Christmas blessing of the planes. My question then for you was, so you said that we have a few Ryanair aircraft and a more substantial number of Aer Lingus aircraft. Does that mean that on Christmas Day, like if you've flown in from Abu Dhabi with Emirates and arrived late on Christmas Eve, does that plane not stay in Dublin on Christmas Day?
Very few aircraft will base overnight. There's very few airlines, even on an ordinary day. You can tell by the early morning departures. TAP to Lisbon is 4:45 in the morning. Anyone who's had to do that will know all about it. Lufthansa base overnight. Some of the Middle Easterns base overnight. But because not all airports close on Christmas Day, nobody's going to be bringing in aircraft to have it stranded for 24 hours on the ground at Dublin Airport. So the number of aircraft in the airport is generally the home-based Irish aircraft. Nobody has ever raised an objection to it. Whether you're Christian or not, or Muslim or whatever, the notion of a ceremonial blessing of an aircraft doesn't raise people's hackles. It's interesting what has happened in social media has sort of ignited factors which are probably unrelated to the blessing of the aircraft in the first place, Stephanie.
I absolutely agree with you because, it's just so cool to be outraged. But I do think that it's a fascinating tradition that I wasn't aware. On my research today, I've realised that CNN did a piece on it last year, which, is very delicately and very warmly handled.
It's very interesting. It's been going for years, and a bit of American interest stirred up, and none of it was hostile, by the way. They all thought this was great. What a great idea, bringing Irish spirituality into a modern aircraft. I mean, we live in a country where a road was diverted so a ferry bush wouldn't be knocked down when the Ennis to Gort road was being built at some enormous cost. You don't mess with the ferries, Stephanie, and you probably shouldn't be doing anything when it comes to the aviation industry, which would reduce your chances of a safe flight in any sense.
We have a lot of WhatsApps coming in on this topic. I am outraged that we are being dictated to by pagans, which is interesting. Can I correct your caller, Stephanie? We don't live in an era of outrage. It's an era of fake outrage. Not religious at all, but I couldn't care less what is blessed and not blessed. Plus, Ireland is a Catholic country and non-Catholics just have to accept that. And another one that says...
I'm with the pagans as well. If there was a ferry bush anywhere near an airport, I would be wary.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And another text that says, it's a lovely tradition. Let's stop this nonsense of getting rid of our traditions and customs. We have become a bland high street country. No other country bows down to others like we do. If it doesn't hurt anyone, don't change it. I kind of agree. I think it's kind of sweet. I mean, it seems like in the last number of years, the chaplain isn't going around, touching each individual plane. He's kind of standing airside and directing his blessings and hoping that the wind takes them towards the planes. And I can't see what harm that's doing. And our last text on this, please keep up the blessing of the airplanes. Irish Airways have a very good air record, for want of a better word. Don't fix what isn't broken. I don't think I would fly if I couldn't fly with a blessed Aer Lingus airplane. What next? Some of us have a little bit of religion left. I'm just fascinated that so many people knew about this and I didn't.
There is a terrific video, and it's easily found on the internet, from Ryark, a television programme some of your listeners will remember from the 60s. And it's all the blessing of the aircraft in 1963 when they were all brought together on the airfield before they did it on Christmas Day. And a wonderful ceremony. It's great to see.
Eoghan Corry, thank you so much. We will check that out. That is Eoghan Corry, travel correspondent.